Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me one quick favor, see that little black subscribe button on the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Really does help this channel grow, my audience grow, and I appreciate it more than you know. Also, quick thank you to our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook and the Betfred Sportsbook app. Bet $50 on any game. Get up to $1,111 in free bets courtesy of the Betfred Sportsbook. Thank you again. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Let's keep it going with the other team entering their last season in the Big 12. And I'm, of course, talking about those Oklahoma Sooners. Oklahoma, like the Texas Longhorns, their over-under win total in the Betfred Sportsbook is 9.5 wins. Most of the money actually coming in on the under. Bet the under at 9.5, minus 125. Bet the over at plus 100. In terms of Oklahoma, listen, you don't really need me to tell you the story of last year. It was year one under Brent Venables. A lot of people were excited. I was one of them. And it all started off so nice, right? It all started off so great and so lovely and so wonderful. 3-0, you win at Nebraska, you destroy Nebraska, and we're all sitting there saying, this is the best of both worlds. The offense is great, but they're tougher, they're more physical, they're more this, they're more that. And then, unfortunately, it fell apart pretty quick. Lose the following week at home to K-State, get blown out by TCU the week after, and then on top of that, you get blown out by Texas. Now, it is worth noting that the two blowout losses at TCU and Texas in Dallas, those were games where Dillon Gabriel got hurt against TCU and did not play against Texas, and that's worth noting. Because Dillon Gabriel, we don't really, like it feels weird, right? In the grand scheme of college football, we talk about Caleb Williams and Quinn Ewers and whoever, Carson Beck and whoever wins the job at Ohio State, J.J. McCarthy at Michigan. Nobody talks about Dillon Gabriel and how awesome he was a season ago. 3,100 yards passing for Dillon Gabriel a season ago in his first year as the Oklahoma head coach, Oklahoma quarterback, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He will have plenty of talent around him, much like Quinn Ewers. Jaleel Farouk is back at wide receiver. Drake Stoops is back at wide receiver. Andrell Anthony, a transfer from Michigan. Brennan Thompson, a transfer from Texas. And oh, by the way, did you see this? Austin Stogner, a blast from the past, was a star there in the Lincoln Riley years at tight end. When Lincoln Riley leaves, Austin Stogner transfers to South Carolina, then announces a transfer back this offseason. He is back at Oklahoma for his final season of college football. So that's the offense. Here's the thing, though. When it comes to Oklahoma, you already know where their struggles came from last year. They were awful defensively, okay? And so, I like I said, I was critical of Brent Venables, and the reason I was critical of Brent Venables was because you're a defensive coach. This defense can't be that bad, and don't tell me it's only because Lincoln Riley left a mess. Lincoln Riley's defense wasn't great in his final year. It wasn't that bad either. The numbers are jarring. 98th nationally in points allowed. 121st nationally and 9th out of 10 teams in the Big 12 in terms of yards allowed, total defense. 105th nationally in rush defense, giving up almost 200 yards per game on the ground and 273 yards per game through the air. So there's no excuse. You got to be better. End of story. Bottom line. The good news, if you're looking for a silver lining, it's this, is that the defense, they went hard in the portal. Dasan McCullough is probably the name to know. Transfer from Indiana, former 5-star. He was really one of the highest ranked players in the history of Indiana football when he committed. Was a freshman All-American a year ago, 6.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks in the Big Ten. Devon Sears from Texas State. Rondell Bothroyd, from Wake Forest. Trace Ford from Oklahoma State. That is right, an interbedlam transfer. And so I'll give Brent Venables credit. They had a weakness. It was addressed. They did really good in the portal. The 5-star kid as well is there. The kid that the 5-star kid, I apologize. I'm not even going to try to say his name, but the bottom line is, look, I give Brent Venables credit because he saw a glaring need and he said publicly, right? I don't want to be a portal guy, but we needed to address this in a hurry, and he did. As far as the schedule is concerned with Oklahoma, one, they are a beneficiary, much like Georgia, of the fact that the Georgia-Oklahoma game got canceled because they will be SEC rivals a year from now. So you look at that out-of-conference schedule. They play Arkansas State at home. They play SMU at home. They play at Tulsa, which is kind of a weird game, but there's really no excuses not to be 3-0 going into Big 12 play. And then even in Big 12 play, not as bad as you would think it would be. Open at Cincinnati. Remember, that is a league game now. You're going to turn on the TV that Saturday, I guarantee it. You're going to be like, Oklahoma at Cincinnati. That's a Big 12 game. And then they play Iowa State at home in their second game before they, of course, play Texas in Dallas. Beyond that, they do have to play at Oklahoma State, which is obviously a big one. Final Bedlam game. We all know that. Think it's worth noting they play at BYU in November. So that could be, again, a new Big 12 school. That could be, a 7:30 p.m. kickoff. Could be 10 degrees outside when they play it. So that's kind of worth noting. Good news, you don't get Kansas State. TCU is at home. And so if we all kind of agree, TCU, Kansas State, and Texas are the other three probably favorites in that league. You avoid Kansas State altogether. You get TCU at home. You get Texas on a neutral field. Finally, let me say this. So let me even backtrack. I actually like the over here. I will be betting the over on Oklahoma, but let me explain why. Listen, I love Venables going into the year, hated him in the middle of the season, but something stood out to me as I looked at Oklahoma coming out of last season. Oklahoma went 6-7. They lost 7 games. That is unacceptable at Oklahoma. Here's the wild part, though. Of those 7 losses, 5 were by a single score, a touchdown or less. 4 were by a field goal. 4 were by a field goal for the Oklahoma Sooners. I want to read you the last couple losses of their season. They lost their bowl game, 35-32 to Florida State. They lost at Texas Tech to close the regular season, 51-48. They lost at West Virginia, 23-20. They lose to Baylor at home, 38-35. Their final 4 losses of the season were by a field goal or less. The only games they got blown out, as I said earlier, Dillon Gabriel wasn't available. So if you keep Dillon Gabriel healthy and you are just a play or 2 better on defense, you have a chance to be really good this year. I like Oklahoma. I think it's about 10-2, but they are my official Betfred best bet in the Big 12. I like Oklahoma to go over the 9.5 wins.